All right, so this is the large model of the inner ear. And there's a couple of different parts that we'll go over, but first I want to kind of talk about the fact that we have an outer, this is a hard bony layer here, and you can see here, this is the outer osseous or bony labyrinth. And labyrinth kind of means like a maze, and you can see this looks pretty complicated. It's like a maze. So this is the outer bony labyrinth or osseous labyrinth, and then inside we have membranes and fluids, and that's going to be called the inner membranous labyrinth. And so that's for all of this. The cochlea also, where we have the outer bony labyrinth on the outside, and inside we have these membranes, and we call that the membranous labyrinth. All right, so we're going to go through first and kind of look at the cochlea. So this snail shell part over here looks like this is going to be the cochlea. These letters here just represent different areas of the cochlea that you guys aren't responsible to know. You just need to know the cochlea for here on the outside. The cochlea here is going to be responsible for hearing. And see, we can open this up again. And when we do that, we'll be able to look inside. And so now we can look at the membranous labyrinth of the cochlea on the inside. So we can see that this yellow part right here, these are going to be the nerves. And we can see that this part here, it's level 13, that's coming straight into the cochlea, is going to be the cochlear branch of the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve 8. And then down here, 14 is going to be this vestibular branch, and we'll talk about that later as we get to the vestibular apparatus. And so inside the cochlear duct, we have a couple of different chambers, and we saw a really big magnified view of the cochlear duct earlier. And so inside here we have this blue part right here is the cochlear duct, and that's going to be where the organ of Corti or the spiral organ are found, and that's where like the actual mechanoreceptors that are associated with hearing are found. And so that's going to be inside this blue portion here, and remember that's going to be filled with that potassium rich fluid. And so the other areas we have here, P over here is going to be the scala vestibuli, and so we have the vestibular membrane here between P and R, and then Q is going to be the scala tympani, and we'll have the basilar membrane here between Q and R. And so these are going to be sort of the insides of the cochlea. All right. And remember that the cochlea is going to sort of spiral. If we could, you could actually unravel it into like a straighter line, and so it's got this spiral area. And so all of these, the whole area, you're going to have those three ducts, the scala vestibuli, the cochlear duct, and the scala tympani in each of these different parts. And so it's going to go all the way down to kind of over here, and this is going to be the bottom part of the cochlea. And some other important parts of the cochlea that we need to look at are going to be found here. So this down here, A, is the oval window. We can see it's kind of oval. This is where the footplate of the stapes, we have a bigger stapes, it's too big for here, but the footplace of the stapes would kind of vibrate there if it was the right size. And then if we turn over a little bit further, we can see that down here, this one, labeled C, is going to be the round window. The round window. And so the oval window is going to, the stapes is going to vibrate in the oval window, and it's going to start that fluid vibrating, and the fluid is going to come up through here, and go, like the vibrations in the fluid will go through here, and then they'll come kind of back on the other side, and they'll come down here, and they'll be dampened at the round window. So now we're going to move on to the vestibular apparatus. And the vestibular apparatus is going to consist of the vestibule, which is here in the middle, and then the semicircular canals, which are here. And so, as we said before, this is going to be the vestibular branch of the vestibulocochlear nerve that's going to the vestibule and the semicircular canals. Here, the vestibule is made up of two different areas. So we've got the utricle and the saccule. And so the utricle here is labeled 8. Let's see if we can try it. The saccule is labeled 9. So this guy, utricle, saccule, they're both part of the vestibule. And each of them inside have a sensory organ for static equilibrium and linear acceleration called the macula. So you'll have an utricular macula and a saccular macula. So you'll have a macula inside each of those. So next, for angular acceleration and rotation, we have the semicircular canals. So next, for angular acceleration and rotation, we have the semicircular canals. And once again, remember we talked about having they have bone on the outside, and then they have this, so that's the osseous or bony labyrinth, and then they have membranes and ducts on the inside, and that's going to be the membranous labyrinth. And so there are 3 semicircular canals, and so this one here at the top is the superior semicircular canal. Then this one here on the side is the lateral semicircular canal, and this one in the back is the posterior semicircular canal. So they're kind of at 90-degree angles to each other in like the X, Y, and Z planes. And each of these have a little sort of rounded bulbous swelling at the bottom of each semicircular canal called the ampulla. And inside here would be the crista ampullaris. And the crista ampullaris is going to be the sensory receptor for that angular acceleration. And so you'll have one here on the superior semicircular canal. You'll have this guy right here is for the lateral semicircular canal. And if you look in the back, you've got this guy right here for the posterior semicircular canal. So they each have a crista ampullaris within them.